some resolution, it's like we go to the polar opposite end of that. And I'm just like, why?
Where do you think this season was a pileup on Kandi? Because it seems like that from the trailer. But then, you have Marlo and Sheree just did an interview, and they say listen, girl, you have to be accountable like the rest of us, there is a thing amongst fans, I think, season after season. I don't feel this way. I've sat down with Kandi like this, and I think she's wonderful. But there is this Kandi wants to talk about movies and TV and everything she has going on, and she doesn't really want to get into it. So where do you fall? Are we all piling up on Kandi this season, or is it no, you're just only held to what standards the rest of us are?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely feel like it's a pileup on Kandi. I think that this season, especially when you see episode 1, a lot of times, and this is what I think makes RHOA so good, is that none of this stuff is planned. It's this stuff is happening real time. This shit is authentic. It's when Kandi gets into this big fight with Courtney, the new girl, no one expected it to turn into something so big, And so I don't feel like there was this strategic pylon on Kandi. I just think, stuff happened. And I feel like Kandi always shows up. If you watch that exchange, it's Kandi is what's going on? And she just gets more and more annoyed as she's having this conversation. And then, it seems like that happens quite a bit this season, but I don't think it was strategic. I think it just, every now and then your number gets called and you gotta answer, but I'm like you, I'm not one of those people who feels like Kandi has escaped it. I think that when it's her time, she shows up and she handles it.
Who do you feel kind of holds back what's really going on in their life the most? And, they want the good stuff on TV and that's it.
That's a really good question. I had never really thought about that, but I do feel like sometimes I feel like Kenya is a little bit is reserved, because I honestly feel like she's dating more guys. I feel like she got more stuff going on, but she just give us a little taste of what's happening in her life. And I think because I feel like Kandi is very open. Marlo is, Sheree is, obviously Drew is with everything she has going on. So I feel like Kenya is the one who has more and doesn't give us everything.
It's like Kenya's a pro at this point, right?
Oh yeah.
What about you? Has there been anything, between season 1 and this season where you were just oh my God, I can't believe we're going there. Just something that you felt, I don't really want this on TV, but here it is.
Yeah, so for me, I think that I'm an open book, and I really was open to sharing whatever transpired in our family life on camera. And I think this year in my personal story, a lot happens, and to be honest, I like sharing it. I like for people to see, what it's like to live in a multi-generational family, and what it's like to work with your family, and what it is when you're having that tough conversation about baby number 2 and all of those things. I think that those are very relatable topics. So there wasn't anything really that I felt like, I hated going on. Of course, there's some conversations that afterwards you're like, oh, but at the end of the day, this is what I signed up for, and I'm excited to see how it all comes together.
What is going on with baby number 2? I know, we saw that last year, and I know you mentioned this at the reunion as well. Where are you and your husband on this matter?
Yeah, so a lot happens this year. About that, David. And I don't want to give too much away because it's a big thing. But I'm definitely more open to having baby number 2, and you're gonna see the real about, when you say yes, and, what does that look like? And, obviously we're struggling with the idea of if our family's going to keep living with us and if they're going to leave. And then my mom and dad are thinking about going back to Florida. And it's just so many things kind of piling on to this conversation that makes it, very convoluted and difficult. So, yeah.
We have that to look forward to.
Yes.
Yes, we see in the trailer too, your husband makes a reference to the fact that, all 9 of you may not be living together anymore. We see you tear up at that fact.
Yeah. Yeah, he's over it. And at a different, obviously in the beginning of the season, I'm really sad about it because I still think it works. And I think it makes the most sense for us. But as the season progresses, you know, there are a lot of trying moments that we have that I start to kind of see his perspective. And so we're getting closer to the moving trucks.
What about who is the peacemaker in this group? Like, you know, you mentioned you're caught between, like, is it you or is it someone else?
I think Sheree and I kind of play that role a lot this season, you know, where we're kind of caught in between because, you know, Sheree kind of floats between, you know, where Sheree is pretty close with Kenya. You know, obviously they have their moments, but I would say Sheree and I are the ones who, yeah, are the peacemakers of the group for the majority of the season.
And who is kind of, you think, the opposite, the messiest that's just kind of trying to stir up this drama more than anyone else when maybe some days when there is no drama, right?
Yeah. The thing is, I don't think anyone is particularly trying to stir up the drama. I just think the drama is. And I think like when you have someone like a Marlo who isn't afraid to speak her mind, or even Drew, who is, you know, like these women are like, if they feel it, they're going to say it. Then we have this new woman, Courtney, who is the same way, no holds barred. You know, I don't think they're necessarily trying to stir up the drama. They're just not afraid of the drama.
And then you have Kenya, who's also not exactly afraid of the drama.
Exactly. How could I forget Kenya?
And Sheree is not exactly, you know,
Yeah,
it's really all of the above.
Yeah.
Has anything shocked you, like, you know, through this experience, you know, like, you know, I think you've won 5 Olympic medals. I mean,
Right.
like, you know, you've lived, like,
Yeah.
has anything shocked you about Housewives?
Yeah, you know what? This is maybe my first time thinking like this and saying this, but I think what has been the most shocking about this experience is what people can get away with saying. You know, because sometimes I'm sitting there like, did she just say that? And then they come back from it. You know, it's like, oh, like this wasn't the end of the world. Like this didn't cause, you know, I mean, some friendships obviously are, you know, take a little bit longer to mend, but I think that's what I am always most shocked about is like what these women say and how they pretend like tomorrow, like yes, like this didn't happen yesterday. I'm like, this happened. I remember I was there. So that is the most shocking thing. And some of the things that come out of our mouths, it blows my mind.
And I guess like what you're saying, it's almost like you're in the twilight zone of like, wait a second, you two hated
Right.
each other yesterday. Now today where everything's fine. Like what's
Yeah,
going on?
exactly. Exactly.
Did you have, on that note, did you have a hard time like with the social media aspect of it? Because, you know, like you were in the public eye, you know, through the
Yeah,
Olympics, your husband, you know, like you guys
sure.
both had experience with press. Are
Yeah.
you shocked that like the press and blogs and everything that goes along with Housewives is just, it's like a whole nother world?
Oh yeah, I didn't. And the funny thing was, I remember sitting with Ralph and Drew before season 1 started, and Ralph was like, "Man, like imagine you are like at the 1 yard line, game on the line, and you drop the ball. Like imagine how they would come for you. That's how sometimes the fans can be on Housewives." And we were like, "No, like that's impossible. Like